What is up guys, Nif here, and today we are going to be diving into the newest addition to Hoyo vs. Gacha game universe, Zenless Zone Zero. That is a mouthful, and for the rest of the video it's going to be ZZZ. And despite competing with Wuthering Waves based on the release date for Zenless Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves is more of an open world adventure style game closer to Genshin Impact, whereas Zenless Zone Zero is carving out its own niche as an instanced ARPG, which is more comparable to, let's say, like Dungeon Fighter Online. It really feels like Dungeon Fighter Online and Persona trying to have a little bit of a baby here going on, but we'll talk about those comparisons to Persona and everything a little bit later, which, like, starting with the game's presentation. I feel like the game does take a lot of inspiration from the Persona series, both aesthetically and with some of the gameplay features, such as the day-night cycle and how you spend time with people, but I do think that the game visually has a lot of flavor, and I do like the streetwear punk vibe that a lot of the characters have, other than the maids and the construction workers. I do like the vibe of like New Eridu, the city people and everything. I think it's pretty cool. Outside of that, I also really like the depth and attention to detail within the siblings movie shop and the little city that we get to explore. I think that there's tons of details all over the place, and it's kind of just fun to look around. I am just wrapping up chapter 1, so I can't speak too much about future chapters, but I do feel a little bit meh about the environments that we have our combat in. It just feels like we're in a derelict train station for the early chapter 1 prologue and everything, and so I hope to see a little bit of improvement there in the later chapters. I think the story's presentation is really cool. I like the mix of the cutscenes, which are really well done and very nicely animated. I like the comic book strip cutscenes. I think that they're different. I think that it's nice to see something a little bit different than just the visual novel style conversations, which we also get those, but those are kind of just par for the course. But I really like how they mix these three elements to deliver the story to us. The story itself, I think it's pretty good. I know what I'm getting into when I'm playing a gacha game, so I don't expect some giant Final Fantasy or anything crazy like the Game of Thrones of JRPGs, the Kiseki series, like Trails in the Sky, Trails of Cold Steel, Trails from Measure, Trails to Zero, all those games. That's an amazing universe if you're trying to get into a JRPG series. Highly recommend it. But back to ZZZ, I think the story is just pretty good. I'm only finishing up chapter 1, but I'm pretty satisfied with my initial impressions of the story. I enjoyed the voice acting, and I do think that they delivered the lines pretty well. I enjoy the cutscenes a lot. I like how animated everybody is. It's super comic book-esque. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, we've got Billy Kid, who is like wannabe Deadpool, but yeah. Speaking of voice acting, I really love that Faithin, the brother-sister the brother-sister pair, are both in the story, Wise and Bell. I think that their ability to actually speak is a game changer. It's nice to see that if you pick Wise, then Bell hangs around, and if you pick Bell, vice versa. It's nice to see that they talk. It's nice to see that the options that you choose for what your character says actually impacts what they say, and they actually say it. I know that it probably doesn't impact the story and the responses that you get that heavily, but it is cool to see that your choice matters to some extent. I wish that in Honkai Star Rail, Stell, the female main character, like, you actually got to see the character talk more, or in Wuthering Waves, Rover. It feels like in patch 1.1 they did play into that and have Rover speak more, but I wish we got more of it. I understand that there's a budget, but like, spend money on your main character, dude. But overall, the story is more than good enough to keep me wanting to play more. I am taking my time and not rushing through it because I'm also playing Wuthering Waves daily, and I play Teamfight Tactics semi-competitively. I'm like almost a Grandmaster. I'd like to get to Challenger, and I want to be a top 100 player in North America, but that's another story. Outside of the story and the game's presentation, I do think that the audio design is pretty good. Like I said, voice acting, it does the job. It's not bad. There's some better performances than others, but it's pretty good. I like the music in the game. I think they did a pretty good job with the soundtrack, especially at the more hype and exciting moments. And I like that we get the little music box in our character's room. Shout out to the song Surprise Box for Good or Bad. I like that one. It's kind of a bop. But outside of that, I think that the gameplay and progression is pretty much what you'd expect from a Hoyo gacha game. Nothing super groundbreaking as far as I can tell, but I'm still pretty early on in the game. We'll see how the systems play out, how much rewards you get for the time investment in terms of spending stamina and everything, but it does feel, like I said earlier, like they took some inspiration from the Persona series in terms of spending your time during the day. You're able to go and do different activities to progress through the day. Some events with the story and stuff are only available at certain times of day, so I think that that's interesting for a gacha game. I'm not expecting anything in terms of like an in-depth confidant system, but like I said, I'm early in the game, so take that with a grain of salt. This is a first impressions review. However, I hope that they play into that system and we get to spend time with the characters, because one of my complaints is that we don't get to walk around the town as our favorite characters, as our favorite waifus and husbandos, and I think that that's kind of weird for a gacha game where you spend hundreds of dollars to unlock your favorite character. Not actually hundreds, hopefully, but you spend investment to get these characters that you really enjoy, but you don't get to walk around as them and you only get to see them in combat, which kind of sucks. And I hope to see something in the future where that is like resolved. But the combat, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm not like min-maxing or anything crazy yet. I'm not at the end game yet. I'm just running around as Ellen the Shark Girl, Rena the Maid, and Best Girl Anbi. I'm excited to get the hang of combat and like see the challenges at endgame. I'm not a fighting game player and I'm kind of lazy, which is why I enjoy the auto combat in Honkai Star Rail. So playing a game like this in Wuthering Waves has been a pretty cool experience for me. Both games are way better than Genshin's combat for me, so that's neat. Wuthering Waves still does take the cake a little bit for me in terms of like fun factor. I like it a little bit more, but Zenless Zone Zero is new. I'm just getting into it over the last few days, and I'm hoping that it clicks with me as I continue to play it. I do like it, and I'd like to see how much more I like it in the near future. But I think that about covers my first impressions, and while I do intend on discussing character designs further, like in a tier list or something, I'm going to save that for a future video. So to sum it up, I think Zenless Zone Zero is a pretty great addition to the gacha games that are currently on the market, offering a polished combat experience with cool, stylized aesthetics, but at the end of the day, it is just that. It's just a gacha game. It's a single player game with really low stakes, so like, just try and have fun and treat it like that. I think the game is getting way too much hate just because it's Hoyoverse, and while there may be controversies tied to some of the hate, form your own opinion and let me know what that opinion is down in the comments below. Do you think the game is getting too much hate? What's your kind of rating on the game? For me, it's like a 7.5 out of 10. It's not the best game I've ever played, but I'm having an above average time because it's a new gacha game, and new gacha game releases are exciting. So let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like this video if you enjoyed hearing me yap, and subscribe for future videos. I hope to see you later. Bye guys.